Welcome back to another episode of Unpacking with Jennifer Satel. Please like, subscribe, and follow in order to get the latest updates and newest episodes. A couple things. You know that I love to give you a little update on what's going on personally and then kind of talk a little bit about my business, my organizing business, as you guys know, which I can talk about forever. But there are other things in the world and a couple things that have happened. So I think I mentioned a couple episodes ago that I started Pilates certification. And with that being said, it is so hard. I am very excited to do this, but I'm also a little bit of, I don't want to say a perfectionist, or I am definitely a control freak, but I don't want to say perfectionist, but I went in there blindly thinking I'm going to go in. I've taken hundreds of classes and I'm going to go in there and it's just going to be easy. Like, I didn't realize the depth of what you have to know. And it's very aggressive in terms of it's a timed thing. And I know that there's other Pilates places, I'm sure. This one is great and I really love it. And it's fantastic. If you guys are ever in Calabasas, Crane Pilates is amazing. They have this program where it's like Tuesday nights and Thursday nights and then occasional Saturdays. And the girls that I'm taking the program with are great and so supportive. So last week, you start off, you learn a little bit about just the basics, and then you get these manuals. And so the first manual was like your lower body. There was 186 pages of lower body movements and exercises to do when you're teaching the class, not necessarily including like advanced moves or for advanced Pilates, clients or members or whatever, the world of Pilates. So that blew my mind. The next thing was we had to first start a 15-minute program, a 15-minute routine, right? So you pick your playlist, nailed the playlist. That's a non-issue for me. Music is my life. I love it. And non-issue. That was like done and done. I did that and I was like, okay, now we're going to do this. You have to write down, all of the things. You have to write down the move. Then you have to explain how to get in the move because people aren't going to know. Some people are new to Pilates. You want to treat everybody like maybe they don't know. Hopefully you get a class where everybody knows and you don't have to kind of go through some of the other kind of beginning things. But that in itself, you then have to explain the moves. You have to explain how to set it up. You have to explain the different changes, the counting, the this, the that. 15 minutes. If there was a letter H, Z for if you passed or failed, I sucked so bad. It was mortifying. It was terrible. And I'm not going to lie. The good news was they did say everybody was terrible, so I didn't feel as bad. But last week, we then got the core body, and that was like, I think 140 pages. Again, some of these moves, there's 140 moves, and then that's not even like at an advanced level. So there's some stuff that I've learned at my studio that they weren't even showing on there. So I can only imagine Pandora's box of all this. Also, we had to buy like 5 anatomy books. There's, I've been watching videos and clips, and it's just a lot. And, I'm spread pretty thin anyway, and I know I want to do this, but I just didn't even guess on how challenging this would be. So last week, the assignment was 25 minutes. Pick your songs, 25 minutes, and you're going to now do lower body and core. So I'm ready. Here I am, and I get there, and in my head, I'm like, I don't want to go first, but I don't want to go last, but I could feel a lot of anxiety. I don't get anxiety on a lot of things, definitely not going into people's homes. It's really calming for me to just kind of help them. But stuff like this, I was like, I could feel like just really anxious. And I was honest when we first sat down and kind of were just talking about, she's like, how did it go? How was writing it? We're kind of just giving some feedback. I'm like, I'm really, really nervous because I feel that I don't know this, even though my brain does the moves. And sometimes I even know the moves that are happening next when you're doing it. I had a full-fledged meltdown. talking tears, snot, like breathing heavy. When it was my turn, there was all this buildup. Of course, I went last because at this point, I'm just like, who cares? I get up there and I started off strong for about 30 seconds. And then I wrote a word on my note card. And it was like I couldn't really read it. And also, I got in my head about it and I just had a full-fledged meltdown. They stopped the music and I had a full fucking fledged meltdown. I'm talking a meltdown. And then I tried to rally and I got back a little bit. I erased the move that kind of threw me off in my head. I said, never mind, I'm just going to skip that. It wasn't great. I'm not going to lie. It was not great, but I kind of rallied. There was some tears still, but quiet tears, not the full-fledged, like, oh my God, just meltdown. And after they were like, the instructor who's kind of critiquing everybody, she was like, her name is Shannon and she's absolutely amazing. But she's like, that was good. You definitely recovered from that opening and this and that and the other. Okay. So one of the things I said to the girls, there's 4 of us total taking it right now. And the other 3 girls, I said, you guys, thank you so much. I know that you're probably going to go in your car and like make fun of me. And that's okay. But I thank you for not doing it because I did not expect that to happen. And I was so anxious and so nervous, and they all were so supportive. And women can be really uplifting, and then they can also be bitches. As we know, and be a little catty. And they were all so nice. And one of the girls said, Jennifer, I'm really impressed that you kind of showed that vulnerability because I know I've thought about crying, but I just go in my car when I leave and cry. And one of the other girls said, well, I was crying this morning, so it was very nice because this is something we all want to do, but it is a little more challenging. So I know that the end result, and I know once you kind of get through all the bullshit and then you find your rhythm and all of those things, I know it'll come. Like with anything, you start off and it's, oh my God, I'm never going to do this. How am I going to remember all this? And then after a while, you're like, oh, I remember a little bit more, or whatever. And then pretty soon you're, a top tier instructor and you're just kicking ass. But right now I'm like at the bottom of the swamp and I'm just like, I'm with a coffee straw trying to breathe and get out of this in my head. A lot of it is in my head, but also it's like, this was so much harder than I thought. And I'm being totally honest. Pilates has completely changed my life. And that's why I'm doing it, because I feel this is something for as long as I'm alive. I will hopefully do some variation of it. It may not be at the level I'm at now when I'm 99 and a half, but this last couple weeks has been very emotional because I'm like, fuck, I can't do this. And I'm not a big believer in saying I can't. And I try to teach that with Charlotte. I know things can't happen, but I don't like to constantly be like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. I am somebody who feels that the glass is half full all the time. And when I know the reality is it's not, it's kind of hard to like embrace, but don't give up. I'm not going to give up, but I will say, I did one yesterday and it was a smidge better. It was a 35-minute one and it was a smidge better. They said it was definitely a lot better than the Meltdown one, which I guess the bar was raised a little bit, but it's not where I want it to be. But I got to tell you, it's a lot of information, but it is really a great place to learn. And the group of women that I'm with, we're all kind of, some of the stuff we say is very similar. We're all feeling the same. So, you're just another thing. You're not alone. Sometimes we hold stuff in. Did I want to cry in front of them like a babbling fool? No, I did not. Did I want to go in there and kick ass and be like, look at me? Yeah, in my head, that's what I was going to do. And it didn't go that way. And sometimes, that's how things are. We all know. And if you guys are in the middle of doing something in your life that you're a little bit nervous about, like maybe going back to school or whatever it is, just know, you're not alone. It is a process. And we have our lives are so different. If you were in your 20s, you probably don't have kids. maybe you're not married. I mean, time is of the essence, right? All the time you don't think you have. God, I wish I can bottle that up and just, have it now because, I'm running on some fumes here, and it was really nice to hear the support that they had because I felt like a jackass. I mean, I felt like an absolute, I don't know, can you say I felt like a boob? I felt like a boob. I don't know what that means, but people say it. I was embarrassed that I was so emotional, which I am an emotional person, as you guys have seen. But just something to go. And if you ever are at Crane Pilates, you're ever in Calabasas, it's a fantastic environment. I really enjoy it, and their training is really great, and it's just something else I love to do. So just wanted to share that with you guys. And I also want to tell you a couple other things. Valentine's Day was last weekend, and last Friday, I had a really challenging day. And in the morning, if Charlotte has her school, if she has a holiday on Monday, she always has the Friday as a half day, and I kind of forgot about that. And so David and I were kind of trying to figure that out. They still have aftercare, but we're trying to figure that out because they get out like at 11:30 and you're picking her up at, 6. That sucks. So we're trying to kind of figure that out. My work day kind of took a turn, and it was, really, I had a hard day. Sometimes I am very I'm so lucky with my clients. I've never had situations that have been where I felt like, oof, that one was hard, or I felt like really sad. And Friday there was I don't know if it was a misunderstanding, a miscommunication. It was probably a lot of different things, and I'm not going to get into that. But what I will say is it took the wind out of my sails in the morning, and I was just kind of bummed. It was a relationship with a client that I also consider a friend. And that was I had a tough morning, and coming off the day before having that meltdown at the Pilates thing. So it was just a rough 24 hours. So I called David, and I'm like, you know what? My work day has changed. So I'm going to go pick up Charlotte, and her and I are going to have a girls' Valentine's Day. And it was really special. She's so adorable. She was wearing her what are those chalky candies called? What are they called? The heart ones that you get every year at Valentine's Day. Robert, what are they called? The heart box that say conversation hearts. The ones that taste like chalk. There's a name for that? Chalk hearts? Sure. They taste like chalk. Anyways, she's wearing that shirt, and then she found the headband that had the same thing with little hearts, conversation hearts on it. And I pick her up from school, and she's carrying all her Valentine's stuff. She has freaking cupcake stuff on the side of her face. And I'm like, you know what? Let's have a girls' day. And I got her, and she was like, Mommy, you're picking me up so early. And everything just changed. I was just happy. We went to the mall because I knew that was her jam, just to let her look around. And of course, buy a couple things because, she had some birthday money, and, we just had a great time, and it was really special. And I just realized, I had a moment in the morning that was tough, but, boy, she just lights up my life, and I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky that she's my Valentine. And then and I ended up spending half the day on Saturday. David and I, we don't really do anything on Valentine's Day. I did ask him, I think I mentioned this, I wanted to go see Wuthering Heights, and because we had Charlotte, and I don't think there was a plan to not have her, we didn't do that, and hopefully we'll get to see it. And if not, whatever, I'll just continue to watch the videos and wish I was in that period of time. But her and I had a great day. We got pedicures, and we just had a great day. And it just made my morning of just kind of whoa, turn around. And I'm sure we have all of those, but sometimes just a hug and a thank you. She was like, Mommy, I had the best day. And it was done. Everything else was forgotten. The tears at Pilates, the whatever happened in the morning. And it was really great. And the last thing I'm going to mention, I had mentioned a couple weeks ago, was that our family, I would say a family member, he was a family member. He passed away, and we hadn't told Charlotte because it was her birthday party. Then, a couple days later was her actual birthday. And David and I had decided, my mom's in San Diego, but I really wanted my mom to be there. And my mom's not super emotional. She's not, she's like, whatever you want, I can be there or not. And I'm like, Mom, I think we should all be there. So my mom actually came up last night. She had something going on today in LA. And so we told her last night, and it was interesting because I was driving home from Pilates, my class or my course, and I was like kind of nervous. I'm like, how do I tell her? Like, what is she going to have a meltdown? Is she just not going to say anything? So she was really excited. I was home, and I was home before she went to bed, and we sat her down and we told her. And I just said it quickly. There wasn't a lot of buildup. It was just, Jim Pa passed away, and she was absolutely floored. I mean, her face, the utter shock was like, oh. And then she had tears in her eyes, but then she sat there and she's like, I can't believe what you're saying. But she wasn't crying. She had tears in her eyes, but she wasn't like crying. And she was like, and I'm like, I said, he's in heaven and he is so proud of you and he loved you and all of those things. And my mom said a couple things. David said a couple things. And I was just hugging her. And I said, is there anything you want to say? Because again, you don't know how to do this kind of stuff. And I don't fucking know anything. I know that when a baby is first born, they tell you what to do, not to kill the baby. But some of these things that happen with bullying and, this and body image of girls and then death. And sometimes there's no roadmap for that. So I said, is there anything you want to say? And she goes, I'm so shocked, Mommy. I don't know what to say. And I was like, okay. I'm like, but you can talk about it anytime. Doesn't have to be now. Doesn't have to be tomorrow. Whenever you're ready. So we talked for a few more minutes. She just was like, she was definitely shocked and she was definitely sad. She had those tears in her eyes, but there was no real talking, And so anyways, she asked if Grandma could put her to bed. And when my mom came out, I said, did she say anything? And she said, she just kept saying, I don't know what to say because I can't believe what you said. That's all she kept saying. And so I was like, okay. And so my mom's like, well, when you're ready to talk, call me or talk to Mommy and Daddy. You FaceTime me anytime, call me anytime. So we'll see. But that was, I was actually more concerned about it. And it was okay. I'm sure there's some sadness there. She's still young, but, I'm glad we did it. It was something that I really wanted to tell her because he was such a huge part of her life. And I felt that she needed to know. I know some people disagree and they said, why does she need to know? She hasn't asked about him, and I'm like, well, because I feel that it's important. And so that's what we decided, but it's over. We said it. And there was, 2 weeks of just waiting. It was like, and then David said, well, remember when I was home with you and I got the phone call and I started crying? That's why. And she had asked me one time I was crying. She said, Mommy, why are you crying? I said, I'll tell you, just not today. And so I explained that to her and she's like, I understand. She still just was like, I'm so shocked. So that was something that was hard. But I think, again, I carry a lot of emotion on what somebody's going to think or what she's going to think. If I'm cold, I'll tell her, put on a jacket because you're probably cold. She's like, I'm sweating. I'm not cold. Or if I'm hot, you want to, wear a tank top. She's like, I'm freezing, So I just thought she was going to say, I don't know. I just thought she was going to be more emotional. She wasn't. And that's okay. So that's what happened last week. And it was a very strange week. And, we just roll with the punches and every day is a new day. And thankfully we wake up every day and we get to embrace whatever the universe and the tornado that goes through or doesn't go through kind of gives you. And some days it's challenging and some days it's rewarding, like spending a day with such a beautiful girl on a Friday afternoon because her school likes to have minimum days almost every other Friday. So that was that. So a couple fun things I want to talk about in terms of my organizing business and just some things that, I'm part of this, I've mentioned before, I'm part of this networking group and they started this new segment where they say, we rotate, everybody gets a 10-minute, like every, mine, I feel like is every 4 months because there's, 17 people. So, I wish I could talk like every month, but I don't. So, but they started a thing where now they're going to do a 5-minute kind of like marketing thing. And what that is somebody talks about how they market their business or things that they learn, things that they want to work on, kind of just like about the actual business. It's not 100% marketing. It could just be like, how are you going to improve your business? I'm super busy. I'm so lucky. I'm so busy. That can change at a drop of a hat. And I know that. And I'm very cognizant of that. And I'm also very appreciative that, it hasn't yet, but I know it will. So it's like you kind of have to be on top of things. And and kind of keep in line with social media or, networking or whatever you do, whatever that looks like. And so they do this 5-minute thing. And today's speaker was kind of talking about, go on these like local apps, like, Nextdoor and like these things where you don't think about because, all people want to talk to you about on like Nextdoor or Ring is like, why is there a helicopter flying over? Or what was that loud boom? And it's like, who did you ask before they had these? But there are other tabs on there that you can actually, sell stuff or talk about your business or promote your business. And there's ads. You can even do ads on those. And I feel, honestly, those are probably going to be hit more than some social media for some people that, depending on what you're looking for, because those are things that they're on all the time. And a lot of people they don't want to be on social media, especially a little bit older generation, right? So I feel that's, I agreed with him. I'm like, that's a really good tool. So in line with that, I was saying, I went to a client's house a couple months ago and just randomly, there was a person there and she's like, oh, this is my best friend, me and my best friend. And I was like, hey, kind of talked to her for a couple minutes, whatever. So she comes out a couple hours later. I'm in the garage. I was working on the garage that day, I think, or something. And she comes out, she's like, whoa, like, oh my gosh, like how much stuff have you done in that period of time? Like, I can't believe it looks, so great. I was like, oh, thanks. She's like, man, I should totally have you come and help me. And she had mentioned that she's in Arizona. And I was like, well, I will come out there. I've done that before. I've gone to Arizona before. I've gone to like Palm Springs and Indio. I go to San Diego a lot. I've gone up to Northern California. I almost got to go to Austin, but it fell through. But I was really excited to help somebody or, when I get asked to help somebody in other areas, because it's like, okay, that's great. And we were never talking about my business. We were never talking about, I never even once said to her, do you need my help? Just normal everyday conversation, because you never know who you're talking to. And she was like, oh, so I kind of thought, maybe that's just something she says. And then I got her phone number. And about a month later, I sent her a text. And she's like, I was just asking Jenny about you. I needed your phone number. And she's like, how weird is that? So anyways, we talked and I'm going to Arizona next week and I'm helping her for 3 days. And it's pretty great. She's awesome too. When you just meet somebody that you just like connect with, and she's super nice, super really receptive to everything and just really excited to have the help. And I think she's like, I feel like you have a really good spirit and you have a really good soul. And I've mentioned that before with a couple other clients that sometimes say stuff like that and you're just like, oh, thank you. But she said it. And the funny thing is, and I'm going to tell you guys more once I get back, when I get back and I get to tell you she's a medium. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to totally ask her questions about myself or whatever mediums do. I want to know. I want to figure it out. So I'm going to try to figure out all that because I really don't know what that means. But when she's like, you're a really good soul. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is coming from somebody who's like, this is her life. This is her livelihood. This is her being. This is who she is. So I'm interested to see what that looks like. And I'll keep you guys posted. But the point to that whole long-winded conversation, which I do a lot, is I never have a short story or a long story short. It's always a short story long, is you never know who you're talking to and you never know who an opportunity can come up and you never would have thought it was. I was just having a conversation, being chatty, being myself. And that's happened before, and then who knows, maybe she will tell somebody she knows or whatever. Just the whole thing is just kind of, be aware of your surroundings when you are talking to people and you're not necessarily in the networking zone. You're just in the normal, like, I'm just shooting the shit with you zone. And it could come out to something. And that was what I was bringing to the table today. In the networking group, is just saying, like, you don't know who you're talking to, and something that seems so casual and blasé could be something that actually works out for you. And also in turn, it seems like I've met a really great person, and that's always wonderful because there's a lot of crappy people in the world, and unfortunately, we hear more about those and we don't hear about the good ones. And she seems like she's a great one. Honestly, she's a great one. And if it's this girl's best friend who I love and respect already, this client, I mean, I can only imagine. So I look forward to talking to you guys about that. And I also want to talk to you guys about is that, if you have a little bit of money conscious, so, you have me for 8 hours, you have me for 5 hours, you have me for, whatever. Sometimes these areas they've been like that for 15, 20, 30 years. Maybe it's your parents' house and they've never gotten rid of anything. So what I do tell people, and this is not a way to say, oh, you need to spend $80 bazillion on me. No. The reality is it didn't take 8 hours to get like that. I am very good at what I do, and I do take pride in what I do. And so that is something that sometimes it's the purging and the getting rid of is where, you really start to see, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so great. Like, oh, we got new furniture built. We did this, we did this, we did this. The organizing is secondary. So sometimes you can go into a house, maybe they only truly need organizing. They don't need purging. They have 3 kids who destroy the playroom. Their bedrooms are bombs. The kitchen is a bomb, but they don't really want to get rid of anything. And that's okay. Then that's where I come in and I just go in and I just knee deep and go into the trenches, make it look amazing, get them systems that work for them, have a place for everything, which is why my business in its proper place makes sense. So but there's people that have family homes they've inherited, or they have a storage unit of their parent who passed away and they brought all this stuff in the garage, but they want to be able to park in the garage again and they need to go through that stuff. And sometimes it doesn't take the 5 or the 8 hours, because it takes a long time to actually go through all that stuff. And organizing is the magic. That's the part that's really exciting. The purging to me is exciting because it's stuff that you can maybe give to somebody else who doesn't have it or who actually needs it. But sometimes the magic, it takes a bit for it to happen. So sometimes we also have to be patient based on, funds obviously are a big factor, because if you're just hiring me for 8 hours, I want to get as much as I can done for you, because I know I appreciate that you have, you've chosen me to help you. But I also know we're a little budget conscious, and there's some that have a little more leeway on that. But I'm like, sometimes it doesn't take 5 hours. It took 5 years to get it to look like that, and I will do my best. But sometimes the magic happens kind of on the second half of the act. So that's something that I talk about. Like, let's just go through this stuff, and then I will do my magic. And I do. And, when you like, subscribe, follow, and you're looking at the clips or you're watching the YouTube or whatever you're doing, we do have in a description, and I do try to put some photos, and I'll be a little bit better than that in some of the things that just are kind of a wow factor. I mean, there's some things that are really fun. There's certain things I love, like new closets or empty bedrooms. And I'm just basically like painting a canvas of how your room should look. And it's great and it's wonderful. But sometimes it's just what you have, and go through it and make it look amazing and livable and look like a home. So that was one of my organizing tips that I give, just randomly, and I give a lot of them. Some of the things I've worked on in the past couple weeks, there was a couple new closet builds that are really fun. I love those because it's just like it's a build. It's somebody, a closet company came in, or maybe they got some, maybe a handyman or something, or, came in, but usually it's a closet company come in and just kind of like revamp the whole area. And you're like, wow. And you realize all this stuff that you bought, those plastic drawers, because your closet just had the one bar, and now you're getting rid of all that stuff that, you didn't really want, but it was something that was inexpensive and you just grabbed it because you needed a place to put your stuff. And, those plastic drawers we all have seen at Target, and, or the little rolly carts that we put crafts on and stuff. And now you have a space for it. And, that's great as well. But that's been a big one. I've also helped. There's this really great, it was a referral of a referral of a referral. And she said, I really need help with my playroom kind of situation. And kind of they were going to have people over. So sometimes there's a motivator, right? Like I've mentioned this before for garages. A lot of times it's, especially when Teslas were just like everyone was starting to get Teslas and they needed to have a charging stage. They needed to have the car go in the garage so they could charge it. So, that was the motivator for getting the garage in line. Or maybe now they want to park their car in the garage. and same thing, they were going to have people over, and she's like, I can't have people over with this looking the way it is and this, that, and the other. And, so it started with the playroom, and then as she saw my progression of how it was going, and I explained everything to her and showed her stuff so we could go through, and, she was totally fine with getting rid of some stuff and whatever. And that's great. But then literally when I left, I was like, okay, I was going to come back, I think, one more time. She literally texts me a list. She's like, I've walked through the house and this is everything I want to do. And it's pretty much every single room in the house. And she's like, I didn't realize how much stuff needs some love. And, some of it doesn't take long. Some of it's really easy. And sometimes you don't need to be there. She left for a while. This is her area. I just send her pictures like yes or no, keep, yes or no, keep. So that was something that was really nice. She seems to really like what I'm doing, but I also helped her get cabinets to hide some of the stuff that was in the dining room, that the daughter does a lot of crafts at the table there, and they don't really have another place to do it. So it was kind of one of those things where let's close it up, put it in containers, label it. I built the cabinet. I couldn't believe it. I mean, not that I don't build stuff, but this one had like hinges and like things that are a little scary. Like the word hinge apparently is very scary. And yes, I had to FaceTime David and make sure I was doing it right, but I did it, and I did the whole cabinet, and it took me like an hour and a half, and I couldn't believe it. I was thinking I was going to be there for like 8 hours, like knee deep in like, screw. I even had David find my power drill. I have like a little like girly toolbox that someone gave me as like a fun gift, and it was like this tiny little power drill thing. And I'm like, David, will you check to see if my power drill's in there? And he's like, you got it. And I'm like, does it have a cord? He's like, no, it has batteries. He even gave me batteries and put batteries in a baggie for me, so if it wasn't working. And I was laughing. I ended up not using it, but I helped buy tables, set up Lego tables for her kids who build Legos and do this whole thing. And then the cabinet and everything. And she just loved it. And there's still a few more things to do. But what I'm saying is it just, it is a process. And she said, I didn't realize how much, stuff I wanted to kind of get my home back. Decorations and stuff that she's lived in that house. I found out yesterday they've lived in that house. They bought it in 2005. So essentially 20 years. And they still had the same things on the shelves in the living room. They had all the manuals from all their appliances from 2005, which I may or may not have talked about this, but it's something that makes me crack up, because nowadays you can just go to Google and put in that model number and you have the stuff you need. A lot of times, 20 years for like a refrigerator and having the same thing. You may have the same refrigerator, that's fine. But typically you're going to call the number, maybe have the model number. You're going to call them and send someone there. I don't know a lot of people that are going to just start busting out and fixing a refrigerator right there. So I feel like some of those manuals, they keep everything that comes in the packaging, right? And this is from 20 years ago. And I actually had asked the husband, I'm like, do you want to go through these with me? Because you can keep them. I know how men are. They kind of feel like they don't want to. He's like, well, and I'm like, you can Google it if you want, or we can still keep it in the drawer. It was everything, though. They still have the stuff from their kid's crib and all the attachments to the crib. Like, this drawer needed to be cleaned out. It was a huge drawer too. So when I emptied it out, the only thing was left was one thing in the drawer. And it was like, I don't even remember what it was. It was something so small in this giant drawer. I'm like, now you have the world. The world is your oyster. But it was just all this stuff. Another thing people keep are empty boxes. Back in the day, you bought something, right? It was broken. You would put it back in the box and go take it back. I mean, now we have Amazon and you can do all these different things, but Costco, a lot of people, I feel a lot of people take advantage of Costco, but I know they have a great return policy. I do think sometimes people kind of take advantage of that. But that's a whole other topic. But sometimes I'll go in a garage and 33% of it is empty boxes, vacuum, heaters, humidifiers, coffee pots, all this stuff. And they're like, well, just in case it doesn't work. I'm like, well, how long have you had it? 8 years. Okay. So Did anything happen in those 8 years? No. Well, let's clear out a third of your garage because that's just empty boxes. And that's just, okay, now look at my work here is done and I haven't really done anything. Sometimes it's just excess stuff that we hang on to because that's what you did back then, right? Older generation, you kept every piece of paper, you kept all of this stuff. I can't express it enough. There's so much paper in the world and there's so many boxes and we hang on to stuff. And yes, nowadays, I don't really return a lot of stuff to Costco. I don't even think you need the box. I think you can just take the vacuum and be like, this vacuum doesn't work. Here's my receipt. Or look at my membership card. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of it. So it's like, what are we keeping all this stuff for? Shoes. And I'm not even talking about like luxury shoes because a lot of people want to keep boxes if they have, high, very expensive shoes, whatever, Chanel, whatever. They want to keep the box. Maybe they're going to resell them. Maybe they just like how it looks. Maybe it's a show off piece in their closet. I don't know. But some of them are just like Joe Schmo shoes. You don't need to keep that box. You've been wearing them for 2 years and they're kind of old and you don't need to keep that box. You definitely don't need to keep it in your closet. And sometimes it's just stuff that is just not even where you have to have any emotion to it. You just go in and just make some hard decisions. Do I need all these boxes? No. Can I clean out? Do I need all these fucking bags? You know how many bags I see in people's houses? Now, they got rid of plastic in January, plastic. We had plastic up the fucking ass, right? Your bags everywhere, plastic, because you'd forget your reusable bags in the car. And now you've already unloaded everything on your, at Target or the grocery store, wherever you're going. So now you're buying 10-cent bags. Okay. So now you have 50 trillion bags, but you don't want to keep buying them. So you put them in your car. And guess what? You forget them. Or you bring them in the house because you brought in the groceries and then you have this whole cabinet or a bag of bags. Some people separate them by the style of bag. Like, why do you have 100 fucking empty bags? Well, what if I need it? I'm not even talking about gift bags. Some people have a whole gift bag closet in their house, an entire closet dedicated to gift bags. A lot of times you get new gift bags every time there's a holiday. You probably keep those because they're right on top and they're new and they're fancy. So that's stuff that you don't need me for, but it's just and if I'm there, like, let's make some decisions. Like, I will keep like 10 of each bag. Like, here's 10 plastic, here's 10 paper, and here's some reusable ones, or the kind of canvasy ones. Put those in your car if you want, or keep them under the sink, whatever works for you. A lot of times I'll tell you to put them in the car, but I'm just as guilty. I have like a bag of like 6 bags. I've never once brought it into a store. I just go in and now I'm like, I'll just spend 10 cents on a bag. And I feel like, why don't they just upcharge you 10 cents? Because what's the difference? Like, I don't understand. 10 cents, just charge me a flat 10 cents, whatever. The whole thing's silly, but no more plastic. Now it's paper bags and it's just clutter. It's just that whole drawer was paper. Underneath the sink, you can't even see all the cleaning stuff and everybody has so much cleaning stuff. A lot of times houses I go to, they have a full-time housekeeper or maybe a housekeeper that comes once or twice a week. Some come every day. I don't know. That's just what it is. But I'm like, why do you have so much cleaning stuff? You don't clean. And they usually have created a system or a little bucket or maybe one of those like handle plastic things. They have all the cleaning stuff they need. It's like you're afraid. It's like we're always afraid. I keep saying this too. We're so gluttonous. We always have to have a million of everything. Your housekeeper probably has the stuff that she favors and she goes to, and usually it's like an upstairs and a downstairs. Maybe she has one for each or she carries it around. Why do we have yesterday she had 9 big Costco things of like plastic wrap. Like plastic wrap. Do people use plastic wrap? Usually you just put it in a Tupperware or you take it somewhere and usually you have like a cover for the food. Like, why are we keeping all this? I didn't tell her to get rid of it. I'm just saying, why do we keep all this? I don't know. We're just very gluttonous and that's kind of my thing. So some of the stuff that I help with is just making space for space that's already there. This isn't even going through really anything. But I was doing that and then I got a text this morning, or no, I got a text last night actually. I mean, it doesn't matter when the text was, but she's like, where did that bin of, it was a post office. You know, when you have a lot of mail and you get one of those post office containers, they're kind of like plasticky looking and they like have handles and you set it down. And it's like if you have an excess amount of mail or you work in an office building, she had one of those of mismatched socks. Do you know how many socks that is? a lot of fucking socks in there, and it was overflowing. And when I was there setting up her closet a couple weeks ago, I said, I hate mismatched socks anyway. But after like 5 minutes, if I don't find the matches, I'm like, socks are fairly inexpensive. Go to Ross, get some socks. Okay, fine. I took 15 minutes. I allowed myself 15 minutes to go through that sock bin. I paired up what I could. There wasn't a ton, but there was some. Paired up what I could, put them in the drawers, and the rest I threw away. And she texted me last night. She's like, have you seen that bin of all the socks? And I'm like, yes, I have. I put the ones that had pairs in the drawers and the rest are in the trash. And she's like, a tear emoji. And I'm like, there was no shortage of socks in there. You each have 50 pairs. I don't know. You guys do laundry. And she's like, well, there was some panic that there wasn't enough socks. So I already ordered some more. So before she even finished hearing what I had to say, she had already ordered some more socks. And I've seen their house. I've been helping them for 5 years. They have enough socks. They have enough everything. I promise you. So those are a couple little tips that are really just easy tips. They're just easy. Half the stuff is just stuff we're afraid, packaging, just stuff that is just stuff. And I know I always say that, and I know people love stuff, and I'm not judging you for loving stuff. But if you're a little space challenged or there's all this like clutter, some of it really isn't even clutter. Some of it's just like boxes and bags. You just part with it and you'll have a lot more space. So those are just some things that I see, every day, and things that are just really easy to kind of go through. I've mentioned this a million jillion times, and mail is everywhere. Papers are everywhere. I also went, on Monday, I go to a client's house. I help her at her house, but I also help at her office. She's a lawyer. She has her own office. She's, and there's, I don't know, but I moved the stuff from the desk. I moved all of that stuff. And then I go through her papers. I help organize the office papers. Now, I don't look at like the lawyery stuff of that. I just, make sure everything has a folder, everything's labeled, and it's in its proper place there. But, I also help her with her paperwork for her home. And so after I was done with all the stuff in the office, which was about 5 hours worth of stuff, then I was there for another hour getting her paperwork set up, because there's a huge conference desk and all this stuff. It gives me a lot of space to work. And can I just tell you, she gave me like a banker's box filled with stuff. And I will tell you that there was probably maybe a handful of stuff that actually was worth anything to hang on to. And that's where I say again, like, if you can take a minute and just, go paperless on some of these statements. A lot of this stuff you can view on your accounts, and it just creates more clutter of stuff that is not necessary. Yes, we have a hard time getting rid of sentimental stuff. Yes, we have a hard time maybe with special clothes or, pictures or whatever. That's fine. I get it. But some of this stuff is just easy. To me, it's kind of like disposable stuff. It really is disposable stuff. We don't need to have 20,000 bank statements from 18 years ago to now. And every month you get an update on your investments. Those envelopes, and some of them come in like those really big 8x11 envelopes. And there's like, if you have 4 accounts, there's 4 of those every month. 2 of the pages have stuff on it. You can look on your website and look at it that way if you want. Some people like the tangibility of it, but you know how much mail that is? A lot of mail. Some people have business accounts, personal accounts, kids accounts. Then there's personal medical, there's business medical, there's kids medical. You keep all that stuff separate, and you're getting statements every month. And it causes all this chaos in your head. And I cannot emphasize it enough. We live in a world where we are rushed. We are constantly, every day, time. I time everything down to almost a 15-minute window, because Robert knows that I'm always at least 15 minutes late. I don't want to be, but that's just how it is. But I plan my day literally to the minute until pretty much we come home for the day. Maybe I pick up from Charlotte from all her, tutoring or art or whatever, and then we come home, and then now I don't have to plan anything because we're home, except for dinner and bedtime and shower and bath and all that crap. But just the rush of everything and the chaos that we have and the timing and the appointments, like just remove some of this stuff from your brain, because I promise you, I can't promise a lot of things, but I promise you it will feel better. And some of that noise in your head that's just like, oh my God, I need to go through this paperwork. Oh my God, I need to do this. I need to do that. You'll feel better. And that's just something that's just surface level. We're not even diving into, grandma's favorite little antique knickknacks that she's keeping. Like, we're not talking about that. We're talking about just superficial stuff that can go in a yes or no manner. And that's where we're at. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you so much for listening. I have many more things to tell you about organizing next week. And like, subscribe, follow. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to talking to you next week. That's a wrap on today's episode of Unpacking with Jennifer. I hope you're walking away with a little inspiration and a few practical tips to make life at home just a little bit easier. If you love the episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a new one. And if you found it helpful, I'd love if you left a quick review. It helps more moms like us find the show. This episode was engineered by Robert Altschuler. Music by Coldfire. Recorded and mixed at Command Recording Studios.